Today here on the Raiders Report, could the Las Vegas Raiders trade for Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson? I would say over the last 24 hours, the number one question that I have been asked, whether it be on social media or live on the Raiders Report, have been the rumors around Lamar coming to the Raiders. If you haven't seen the rumors yet, there are multiple spots out there. PFT and ESPN have recently linked Lamar Jackson to the silver and black. And when those type of rumors happen, I sit up here and I talk about them. If you don't already know, I'm trying to continuously grow our Raiders Report family here. We need 152 more subs to get to 214,000. We had over 213,000 people join us yesterday for the national championship game, but I want to keep this thing going. I want to keep on climbing here. I want to catch the official Raiders YouTube channel and be number one on YouTube. If you did not see the rumors, Pro Football Talk floated out an idea that apparently there's been speculation that the Ravens and the Raiders could talk Lamar Jackson trade. Quote, there's a feeling out there that the Raiders are going to make a play for Lamar. What's really interesting about all these Lamar Jackson trade rumors, and I've talked about Jackson on this show multiple times. I did a video on this probably about a month ago when some of these rumors started popping up. What's really interesting, though, about the Lamar Jackson trade rumors is this. He's got a no-trade clause. So if Lamar wants to be dealt to the Raiders, he has to approve it. If Lamar doesn't want to be traded to the Raiders, then he's not going to lift that no-trade clause. What the question needs to be asked, to Lamar and his agent, are you open to the idea of playing for the Las Vegas Raiders? If that answer is yes, well, then this is definitely a show that we need to talk a little bit more about. If the answer is no, then let's just keep this thing moving and go out and get this man right here. But here's what PFT had to say on Lamar to the Raiders. Offer the first pick in the draft for Lamar Jackson before they've got to hire a coach, but Tom Brady feels compelled to do something. This year, people are expecting him to do something big. And there have been a lot of rumors, there have been a lot of murmurs that the Raiders and Tom Brady are going to do something big because of how much of a disaster Pete Carroll and that regime was last offseason. The Raiders, based on the people that I talked to, feel like they have lost a year. And I feel like that the Raiders also lost a year because you wasted it with Pete Carroll. But here's the trade idea that Pro Football Talk's throwing out there, where the Raiders get Lamar Jackson, Baltimore gets the number one overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft. So let me know down below, who wins this trade? If you think it's the Raiders, type Raiders. If you think it's the Baltimore Ravens, then type Ravens down below. You are about to get hit with a YouTube ad break. While that ad is playing, I want you to scroll on down, give me your answer, because my answer is going to be coming up here in just a moment. I believe that the Ravens win that trade. And I say it because I believe the first overall pick is worth more to the Las Vegas Raiders. Quarterback scarcity, supply and demand. There's not a lot of quarterbacks out there. And also, I think if you're going to trade away the number one pick, I believe it is worth a lot more than just, let's say, 3 first-round picks. And I bring that up because I think if you go out and you trade for Lamar, I talked to a source here close to Chat Sports, and they told me I think what it would cost to get Lamar Jackson would be somewhere between 2 and 3 first-round picks. If I looked at every single member of Raider Nation right now and I said, would you accept the number one overall pick for 2 to 3 first-round picks? 99 out of 100 people are going to tell you no. So if that's the logic that I'm thinking of, I am going with what I, as a Raiders fan, think that number one pick cost is. I want 5 to 6 round picks. I know it sounds crazy, but that's what a franchise quarterback is worth. That's what I think Fernando Mendoza is, a franchise quarterback. So if you're not going to give me that, we're not going to talk about it. If you want to actually make this trade happen, let's get insane. Because here's the thing. The Ravens laugh at me if I offer them this. And if you're the Raiders, I think you'd be crazy to turn a trade like this down. So if you're telling me I get Lamar Jackson, I also then want the Ravens' first and second round pick this year, 14 and 45, and then also throw in Roquan Smith, one of the best linebackers in the National Football League. Mind you, if Baltimore trades Roquan to the Raiders, they eat $25 million. We get them on our books for about $7 to $8 million. That's what I would want from this trade. It's not that I don't love Lamar Jackson. It's not that I don't think that he's a phenomenal player. But what that number one overall price tag for the Raiders is, it's got to be up there. because of where you're at as a franchise. And I don't know if we're just a Lamar Jackson away from being able to get this thing going in the right direction. Because if you trade for Lamar, he's got a $74.5 million cap. You're probably going to have to restructure that, maybe give him a little bit of a contract extension. But if you're paying a quarterback $74.5, you don't have as much money to go out and add all the other pieces that we do. Sticking with a rookie quarterback, you're able to add a lot more in free agency because we got a lot of holes that need to be filled. Now, if you think that trade for Baltimore was crazy, I put this video out last week, maybe 2 weeks ago at this point. I can put it for you guys down in the comments, down in the description of today's show. But it was me essentially breaking down what the number one pick should mean to the Raiders. What the number one pick should mean to Tom Brady, Mark Davis, and John Spytek. And I know that Lamar Jackson is a phenomenal quarterback. I talked about him all the time. Hell, I've sat up here on this show and I've said the only two quarterbacks that better be under center for the Raiders next year, the only two options, Lamar Jackson, Fernando Mendoza. So if we want Lamar and if Baltimore wants that number one overall pick, all I'm saying is this. Lamar for number one straight up overall, you hang up the phone and you tell them, give me a better offer on that one. But PFT was not the only person to link Lamar to the silver and black. And again, I'm not an insider. I'm not a beat reporter. I'm a fan that when I get information, I relay it to you. But when I also see top trending topics out there, I'm going to sit back and I'm going to talk about them. So the fact that PFT is saying that, hey, there's some rumors right now around, and I'm like, all right, well, that's kind of interesting. And then also, ESPN NFL insider Jeremy Fowler literally just dropped an article not too long ago where he predicted the Raiders to trade for Lamar. I always say where there's smoke, there's fire. There's starting to be a weird amount of smoke around Las Vegas going out and getting number 8. Here's what apparently an NFL executive had to say in Fowler's article. It just seems like there's been some consternation, I don't even know if that's a word, there with Lamar and the Ravens. And this would be the ultimate Mark Davis move. I'm not even convinced everybody with Vegas would be on board with it, but it would instantly solve their quarterback problems. And you're not wrong. Trading for Lamar Jackson instantly solves your quarterback problems. I think trading for Lamar Jackson instantly makes you a playoff contender. And coming up here on the program, I'm going to tell you, since we're going to do this show, why the Raiders could trade for Lamar. Because I'll be real with you. I don't think that the silver and black are going to do it. I think they're going to draft Fernando Mendoza. I think guys like PFT are just throwing stuff out there right now at the wall because it's January 20th and they're probably not getting enough clicks. If it ends up happening, I will apologize to PFT. Fowler's one of my good buddies. I message him. I talk to him from time to time. But to me, I would put more validity in this rumor coming from Fowler, way more than I would put it in from PFT. Because honestly, if you followed a lot of the things that Pro Football Talk has talked about in regards to the Raiders, it's been a lot of swings, big swings, and even bigger misses. I'll tell you why the Raiders, though, could trade for Lamar here in a moment, because let's have a little bit of fun with it. You have to have fun talking about a two-time NFL MVP. You also got to be able to have some fun on America's number one fantasy sports app out there. The big game, it's almost here, and there's no better way to cash in during America's biggest sporting event than Prize Picks, where it's always feels good to be right. And since the big game is right around the corner, that also means it's your last chance to get into the football action before next season. So close the season out right with Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. Do you miss fantasy football? Prize Picks lets you play fantasy football every week. You can pick your favorite players and win when they hit their projections each week. I love how straightforward Prize Picks is. I don't have to second guess myself on how much money I'm going to be able to win. If you want to go with a power play, if you want to go with a flex play, that's totally up to you. So I want to be clear. This is actually not my personal lineup. I would never take the more on Devontae Adams. No. This is actually a line of one of our guys here at Chat Sports threw to me, and they were like, hey, let's get this thing going. A lot of playoff games, and if you plan on sitting down and watching all the games, I encourage you to, hey, who knows, get a lineup in there. So we decided to go with Drake May on the more, Cooper Kupp on the more, Devontae Adams on the more. I will be kind of waiting back, sitting to see if Prize Picks hooks us up with any of like their amazing deals like I got last week with CJ Stroud, 0.5 pass yards. I hope. We'll see. I mean, Reed just looked at me like, yikes. And yeah, I probably should have taken the more on the interceptions with Stroud. Don't tell Chugs. Don't tell Chugs. But no matter what, if you plan on watching a game, sit down, get a Prize Picks lineup in. It's going to make that experience for you a lot more fun. So download the Prize Picks app today. Make sure that you use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. So, since we're here talking about Lamar Jackson, I've already been very clear. I don't think that the Raiders are going to trade for him. At the same time, I never thought the Raiders were going to trade for Devontae Adams, and the cool part about the NFL is anything can happen. It's why I love covering the Raiders. It's why I love covering the National Football League. Anything is possible. So, let's entertain the idea here. Let's say, here's why the Raiders could trade for Lamar. I mean, I don't know how anybody would disagree with this statement. The moment you go out and get Jackson, you're an instant playoff contender. 29 years old, and I literally mean any team out there. Put him on a roster. That team's an instant playoff contender. Two-time NFL MVP in 2019 and in 2024. The offense that Las Vegas would be able to run with Lamar and Genti would be unbelievable. Two tight end set with Brock Bowers, Michael Mayer. I mean, if you really want to lean on your past two first-round picks in Bowers and Genti, I don't know if there is another quarterback on the planet that you could get the most out of those two guys. And I say that because a running mobile quarterback like Lamar instantly is going to make Genti better. Instantly helps him out. And then when you look at what Lamar has been able to do for a player like Mark Andrews, Brock Bowers is going to turn into the greatest tight end that we've seen in a long time. And I know he's coming off a little bit of a down year, only 600 and something yards, but at the same time, Lamar makes this team an instant contender. I don't know if that means Super Bowl. I personally don't think so, but I do think it makes you a team that's right around that 9-win threshold. Who knows? Maybe that's good enough to get into the playoffs. Let's go to the next reason here. Tom Brady loves him. And I talked about Brady's affinity for Lamar the first time I did this video, and there's a lot of love there. And Brady has shown interest in Jackson before. I remember when the Raiders were linked to Lamar back in 2023. I sat up here on this show and I said, you got to go get him because players like Lamar do not become available. People laughed at me. People call me crazy. I don't know why everyone thinks that Lamar Jackson is this injury-riddled quarterback. I get that he's missed a few games, but in all honesty, he's been way, way healthier than a player like Maxx Crosby, if we're being 100% honest. The other thing that I thought was really interesting overall was Tom Brady's Instagram post. And if you never saw Tom Brady's IG post, this is when he retired in 2022. He posted this on his IG, and you can see, you're next, and he added Lamar Jackson. When you uncover the story of that a little bit more, it was kind of like Brady, hanging it up, but he was kind of passing the torch. And for Brady to pass the torch to the next quarterback, the QB that he personally felt was going to be the player that took over the league, there's got to be an unbelievable level of respect there. Also, Brady and Lamar only played one time in the playoffs. Lamar ended up getting the dub over Brady. So I just think about the way Brady thinks of himself as a competitor, the fact that he fell to Lamar, and the fact that he literally once said, hey, man, I'm going to pass the torch. That tells me that Tom Brady was interested in him. And if the rumors are true, you got to think about the possibility of the Raiders going out and trying to get him. Let's go to my next reason here. Could you get him on a discounted rate? And I bring that up because originally I was told here by our Ravens host here at Chat Sports that Baltimore is going to pick between John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson. Obviously, John Harbaugh now is the head coach of the New York Giants. So in my mind, I thought, all right, that team ended up picking Lamar over Harbaugh. What could be interesting, though, is, Ravens owner Biscotti, he essentially said that he wants to keep Jackson. But it also takes two to tango because Biscotti also went out and said, well, we're going to have to restructure his contract. If I'm Lamar Jackson, maybe I want to make $74.5 million. Maybe I don't want to have to restructure my contract. And I do wonder if the Ravens and Lamar have an ugly split, a trade could be cheaper. And if a trade is cheaper, well, then that helps out the Raiders. And I don't think that then you got to move on from the number one overall pick. Like, if you're telling me right now, I can keep the number 1 overall pick. I can trade for Lamar Jackson, and then I can use that number 1 pick, trade back with the New York Jets to acquire even more picks. Well, that's really where this conversation should get started. It shouldn't be Lamar Jackson for the number 1 overall pick. I don't think anybody should want that if you're a Raider fan. I think the conversation should be Lamar's got a no-trade clause. If Lamar's willing to waive that no-trade clause because he's not happy in Baltimore, well, his trade price went from here, it goes down. I'm a big supply and demand guy. I'm a big guy where if I see a yard sale, that's where I want to go shop, especially when I'm looking at a quarterback that's 29 years old and he's scheduled to make $74.5 million in 2026 and 2027. With the amount of needs that this team has, the only way that you're going to trade for Lamar Jackson is if you can get him at a discounted rate and you can keep the number 1 overall pick. So you go trade for Lamar Jackson, then you trade back from number 1 with the New York Jets. You get a boatload of picks, then you use those picks to build around Lamar. That's where this conversation should start. If the conversation don't start there, I really don't have a lot of interest in Lamar Jackson being the next quarterback of the Raiders. Coming up next here on this program, more reasons why LV could potentially trade for the Baltimore Ravens quarterback. And again, I don't think it's likely. I don't think it's going to happen. But my job here is always, always, always give you guys my 100% true, authentic self in terms of my opinion. That's why I want people to hit that subscribe button. Anybody can talk about news. Anybody can talk about an idea. Put it pen to paper. Let's talk about it. Let's chop it up. There's nobody better on the planet talking about the Raiders than us right here. If you want to link up with me and Chugs, here is our date that we're going to be in right around the Super Bowl. Fairway Zone Sports Bar and Lounge. The address is right there. It's in San Jose, California. It's going to be Friday, February 6th from 7 to 10 p.m. I'm going to be honest, probably going to be there longer if there's a lot of people that show up. If you want to call to reserve your spot, 408-703-3201. Give them my name, give them the Raiders Report name, and say, hey, I want to be a part of that event. But also, if you plan on coming there and you plan on having some drinks, please Uber. If you plan on driving, there is tons and tons of parking. And I mean tons and tons of parking. Hell, we might even be able to party in the freaking tailgate in the parking lot. And then they got an indoor-outdoor area. I've never been to San Jose. And if you're a Raider fan that lives near the San Jose area, show up, show out like you always do. I can't wait to shake hands with Raider Ron, Lord Cameron Abbott, and a bunch of the real ones that make this show possible. Let's go to the next reasons here why the Raiders could trade for Lamar Jackson. You got the resources. Like, I think the other part that's really going to hurt Baltimore, if let's just say Lamar and the Ravens have this ugly split, Lamar says, all right, I'm going to waive my no-trade clause. How many teams out there can, one, trade for him with the draft capital, two, pay him the amount of money that you're going to pay him? Because the Raiders, you got 10 total draft picks, including the number 1 overall pick. According to Over the Cap, the Raiders have the second most money in salary cap space. And according to Spotrac, we also have the second most money. Though we are also the only team in the NFL, when you look at 2026 and 2027, that is top 3 in salary cap space. And as you can see, the Raiders, $173.8 million, according to Over the Cap. The reason why I bring this up is, again, Lamar Jackson is an unbelievably talented player. I think he's a top 5 NFL player. If Lamar Jackson's on your team, you got a shot. And I know that the Ravens know that. I think Raiders fans deep down should know that as well. But if you're saying, hey, here's this price tag, it would be like me if I pulled up here on the Raiders Report and I said, hey, if you guys want to buy this Ferrari, you go to this link right now. There's going to be a lot of people that are like, man, I would love to be able to buy that Ferrari. I just can't afford it. I don't have the draft capital. I don't have the salary cap space. And that's going to be the issue for a lot of those NFL teams out there, that a lot of the teams that need a quarterback, they're probably going to be looking to rebuild with a younger guy to build around him. How many teams out there have the draft capital and the money for Lamar Jackson trade? I really don't think that there's many out there. The final reason is this, and I'm going to be honest, it's probably the least important reason out of them all. I love Maxx Crosby, but nobody is above the shield. The reason why I bring this up, though, is because there's not a better player-to-owner relationship in the entire National Football League that's not a quarterback than Maxx Crosby and Mark Davis. And I know for a fact that Max wants to win right now, and Mark Davis knows, Tom Brady knows, this entire organization knows where Max stands right now, especially after, let's call it what it is, situation disagreement on the final 2 games of the season. I'll be real. I've talked to some sources, and I think Max is around the idea now that we're in the situation that we're in, saying, like, it sucked then, but yeah, I understand why it happened. And Lamar, again, he makes his team an instant contender. And the Raiders have listened to Crosby's demands before when you think about going out and hiring an Antonio Pierce. So if you really want to calm some of the waters down on, I'm not saying Max wants Lamar more than Fernando Mendoza. I have absolutely no idea. What I do know is Max wants to win, and he wants to win right now. And whether we want to face the facts or not, I do think Lamar Jackson makes this team better and makes this team a winner now more than what Fernando Mendoza is. The question is, though, what about 3 years from now? What about then? 4 years from now? What about then? And for me, I don't look at the Raiders as a team that's ready to win Super Bowl now, Super Bowl next year. I look at this team as being a 2 to 3 year process. 2 to 3 years with Lamar Jackson, we're looking at a 30-ish, a little bit older quarterback. Maybe it makes sense to go with somebody younger. Here was an offense that I threw out. It's probably about like a month and a half ago on this show about a potential offense that you could have with Jackson. Now, again, this is basically predicated on you making the trade and then you having to restructure his contract because you will not have enough money to pay Lamar, pay Tyler Lindenbaum, and go out and get a guard like an Elijah Vera Tucker, though I don't think Tucker's going to be all that expensive. The reason, though, why I want you to see this is because if you have Lamar, you still have to be able to figure out a way how to build that offensive line. And maybe if you have Lamar, you don't have as much assets to be able to build that line. Sure, you want to be able to add another receiver, but that's 2 receivers that can block, 2 tight ends that are really solid, a hell of a running back. This has the potential to be a top 10 offense in the National Football League. Now, before I get out of here, I got one more very, very interesting note because, again, where there's smoke, there's fire. The time that I'm recording this video, the Raiders will be interviewing Ejiro Evero and Jesse Minter today. The reason why I find that interesting is because over the past 24 to 48 hours, all of these rumors around Lamar Jackson have been popping up left and right. That's interesting to me because I know the Raiders are interviewing Minter today. The number one coach that I've heard in terms of who the Raiders are interested in is Jesse Minter. Minter worked with Lamar Jackson from 2017 to 2020. So the fact that there's overlap there, I will say this. If the Raiders go out and they hire Jesse Minter, I don't know who the OC, I don't know the DC, but because of relationships, because of connections, if the Raiders end up hiring Jesse Minter, I will say the chances for the Raiders to go out and trade for Lamar Jackson, double. From 1% to 2%. But it's still a double of percentage. So at the end of the day, we're going to do our best here to keep track of everything going on. I think rumors sometimes can lead you to where the great news ends up coming. But there have been a lot of people talking about Lamar Jackson or the Raiders. I love the conversation, but at the end of the day, I want to draft Fernando Mendoza. The only way I will entertain the idea of trading for Lamar Jackson is if we get to keep pick number 1, trade for Lamar, and then you take that number 1 pick, you trade back with the New York Jets, you get a lot more picks to then be able to build around Lamar because you're going to have to give him a contract extension. And I think that contract extension is a trade, 3-year extension, you time to Maxx Crosby. I don't think the Lamar trade happens, but I'm always going to be here to talk about it.